Okay. Hi, sisters and brothers. Okay. Because if in case there's a few brothers watching these videos, we don't want to exclude them. I thought we'd look at one verse today. We're not going to take a look at the transmigration of the soul just yet. I have actually took quite a few of the notes on that. I wanted to be sure to include in the next video because I had mentioned I would on the video. So I wanted to make sure that I do actually include them because I have a habit, I'll say that on a video and then I'll forget to include them. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm going to include everything that I said that I would. I think I've taken notes down this time that I actually can, work with. And so that'll be the next video. This video is going to be on just one verse. And I got reading it this morning, the commentaries on it, and I'm like, wow. For us women who's been on this journey, and for a few gents out there possibly, you're going to see this in the commentary when I read it. I don't think I have to tell you it. I think I just got to read the commentary. Of course, I'm going to talk because I have a big mouth. On this. So, but the verse is, one that, oh my gosh, did I just X that? Incredible. I just X'd it. No, I did not. I X'd a different one, so let's hope I don't actually X this. Well, why is it X'ing? I'm well off. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Okay, there it is. Yes. All right. Okay, and the camera's still up. So this is the verse we're going to take a look at. Sorry for my incompetency. I don't mean to be so incompetent. It's just, you know what? It's been that way my entire life. I'll go to do something and I can work extra hard at it and it'll extra not do it, right? I know that don't make sense, but that's how it seems to work. It's like the more effort I put into making sure it don't turn out that way, the more effort it's going to look like I worked at making it look that way. So you kind of learn to give up in that way because it's like, well, it just ain't going to work out no matter how I do it. It just is not going to work out for me. So I just have to pursue it with the tenacity that is in my heart, is in my mind, to keep pursuing it and present it in whatever capacity that I can do that for you. So anyway, we're going to take a look at this verse, Revelations 13:18. We'll read some various renderings here. We'll start with the New International Version. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast. The number of the beast. We live in the beast system, don't we? For it is the number of a man. That number is 666. How about we read the Berean Standard Bible? Here is a call for wisdom. Let the one who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and that number is 666. And we'll do the King James. Excuse me. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay. Now, we on this channel know what man is in this 666. We isolated it to be King Solomon, but it really took us through a number of males who was really fighting against the law of the Anointed One. So that led us to men like King Nebuchadnezzar, King Darius, Adam himself, who was the first accuser from the beginning, who accused the spouse of the original covenant, is what we realize he was doing. We also see King Hezekiah, and the list goes on. We can actually go into more depth into the number of men that really kept building on this system of the idea of God being male, male, male. And the reason why everything exists is because of this male God, right? And I did a video on that. I feel like we're in it together. I do. That's why I often say we. I feel that me and the spirit that's guiding me and these women who are supporting and praying for me, I thank you so much. I have had a couple of comments saying that they pray for me. I appreciate it very much. I never ask for prayers, but I do so very much appreciate them because I feel that this is a collective, effort. I don't feel that I'm in it by myself when I especially see such wonderful comments from my wonderful sisters in this climb. We're in it together. So that's why I often say we. I'm not crazy. I don't have split personality. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. Anyway, so, but we had dropped a video, and it had to do with identifying the number 666 and where it came from. Now, I'll post that video under this. It was one of the older ones, and so we were growing, and we're still growing in our understanding. Now, when I read the commentary on this particular verse, now, had I read this commentary or this verse, and I may have in another video, like say I had done it 2 years ago, I don't think I've got this, would have had the scope on it that I've got now, the understanding of it in its totality that I have now when I read these commentary. It's just so amazing. It really fills it in, I think, for most of us who has this understanding. So we're going to start with Ellicott's commentary for English readers, and I'll just insert a few comments as we go. So when I say a few, it'll probably end up being an hour-long video or more, and I hope that it's not. If it's not, that's fine too. So we're going to start with Ellicott's commentary for English readers. Here is wisdom. Translate, hither is wisdom. This most difficult verse is introduced by this word of preface. Wisdom, indeed, the highest wisdom, is needed for those who would understand it. So we're not talking about a lot of people necessarily understanding. We're talking about the highest wisdom needed to understand it. So how many are actually going to come out having that higher wisdom and able to understand it? And I'm just going to quickly comment, I know we ain't far in here, that, when I used to think it says, the glory or the light of the Lord is so bright that you can't even look upon it. You cannot stand to look upon it. The brilliance of the Lord would be so great that you would not even begin to be able to perceive, what that is. And I've come to realize it's about understanding. It's about wisdom. We can't attain to that because we simply don't want to hear it. We cannot attain to those thoughts that are so illuminated in their understanding that we can't even begin to look at it. You know what I mean? And so I'm starting to understand this idea of brightness and illumination and the eye's not able to look upon it. It takes us right back to the angel Uriel, who was trying to explain to Ezra, if you don't understand your earthly realm and how it works, how could I possibly understand to you the higher existence and the higher understand the illumination? You can't even look at it. It's too bright for you to know. And it's the same with those Christians. Christian means anointed one. Christian or Christos is where that word would come from, Christians. But it's Christos, and it means the anointed one. It does not mean a man. But they're down at the feet of an idol, and when they hear just a little part of this, it's like, oh my gosh, does that not make sense? Because it's too illuminated for them to even begin the climb. You know what I mean? First off, you got to decide, all right, there's something wrong here, down here at the feet of a male idol that's teaching he. There's something wrong here. First, you have to determine that there's something wrong. When you do that, you kind of pick your head up and you start looking around and going, okay, well, now what is wrong? And you start zeroing in and really reasoning it out. And when you reason it out, it's going to make sense. It's going to add up. Well, those illuminated ideas are really too high for the fool, is what they're called, down at the feet of an idol. They're just too far away from it, right? They have to take those necessary steps like a child, right? Learning to walk. So I'll just say that about enlightenment and being too bright to look upon, right? It's about knowledge. It's about understanding. It's about wisdom. Indeed, the highest wisdom is needed for those who would understand it. 2 or 3 points ought to be noticed. 1, the verse surely implies that the understanding of this name and number is attainable. It warns us, excuse me, I got gas. It warns us that wisdom and understanding are needed. But it as certainly leads us to believe that to wisdom and understanding, a solution of the problem will be granted. Number 2, there is a variation in the manuscript respecting the number. Some manuscripts reads 616, but the probability is in favor of the reading 666. In an excursus, and it's got in brackets, excursus B, I don't know if I'm saying that right, will be found a short account of the various interpretations which have been given. Number 3, the clause, it is the number of a man, in brackets, has been rendered for number is of man. For number is of man. The number then is the combination of 3 sixes. There is a wisdom and understanding which may grasp its import, and that import is to be guided by the principle that it is the number of a man, or that number is of man. Is that to say a method of computation which is used by man and used by God in order to symbolize something more, thus more intelligible to man? Is the wisdom which is to solve this than the mere cleverness which can guess an acrostic or an enigma? Now, just to go back here, it says, for number is of man. Well, it just took me back to this very simple thought. When David was told not to number the people in a census, he was told not to take a census on the people in the Old Testament. God said, you do not take a census of your soldiers, of your people. You do not do that. David got in his head that he was going to do it anyway. And I think it was Joab. He said, no, God told you not to number the people. Because the idea is, it doesn't matter the number. If God's got one that will go for God, and that took me back to the verse, God says, who will go for me? Who will I send in my name? Who will go for me? All God's got to have is one strong one. And we were always told this in one of the churches that we went to. One with God is a majority. So God is saying, I can use one and accomplish more than all of your numbers, David. All I got to do is send one. That's it. And it also took me, I have a further understanding of what a Thanksgiving offering could be. And it could be to go for God as a soldier in God's army. That was considered a Thanksgiving offering. Yeah. But now understand a war for God is far different than the concept of war here on earth. It's a very different understanding, though that has been incorporated into its meaning, of course. But to offer up a Thanksgiving offering means that you willingly go and you do a service in God's name for God. It's a free will offering. You do it from the willingness of your heart and from a desire to serve the Lord. And so the Lord talks of the Lord's servant, and that servant was Israel, of course. So just the number here just made me think of David when he was not to take the census of the people, and he did. And the idea was that God can use whoever, how many God wants to accomplish God's purpose. And if God chooses to use one to accomplish that purpose, then God will do that. If God chooses to use 10, God will do that. But if God chooses to use 10,000 or 1,000,000, God can do that too. But God don't need you to number the people to make it come to fruition, because it's God that's in charge of accomplishing all things, right? So David really had no reason to number them. It was more or less to secure his own personal, confidence in the idea that he could accomplish it. It wasn't him. And it's the same with the women in the Old Testament that were accused of, you go to your husband and you say, oh, he's a great provider. And you forget the one who provides all. He couldn't provide you with nothing except that I'm providing you with it. And so the women were doing a very disservice unto the God of heaven by saying, oh, it's my husband who does the providing. Your husband doesn't provide for you. It is God that does the providing. And God makes that clear. God found that a slap in the head. So, all right, where was I? Sorry, I babbled. Is to say a method of computation which is used by man. Let me scroll down here so I don't reread the same thing. So we stopped on acrostic or an enigma. Or is it rather that the true heavenly wisdom, which is moral, all right? Heavenly wisdom is moral rather than intellectual. So you know what? I take it from a moral person is going to take a look around in this system that is absolutely, in my humble opinion, built on hate towards women. I can see it with my own eyes. I don't need you to get up on the pulpit and preach to me how much a man loved the bride that he had to wash her in blood. I really don't need that, because I can look around and I can see what that teaching did, along with all the other teachings of this male God that we find in Daniel 2 being built up by every successive kingdom, that man is God. And it has empowered him over womankind to debase her and to force her down to her knees. That's right. And to submit to this religious lie and empower him. And that's what it's done. So, where was I? So wisdom is moral, right? You're going to find moral ground in that truth. You're going to find the moral of it. You're going to find the truth, right? You're not going to find that religious lie is adding up, making sense, and is so love-felt, because we read it in the Apocrypha that this world chose to build itself on hate and cast away the real peace of the system and built it on hate and called it love. Now we read that and we studied that. So, which is moral rather than intellectual, and is needed to unite itself with understanding to solve the problem. And that's just what I think we've been doing on this channel. I think there's strength in numbers. I think the idea of manifesting, bringing about something, has the idea to manifest it in our existence. And so to manifest and to come upon this truth through reason and moral, united itself with understanding to solve the problem, I think we need that in order to manifest this and to change it, to change the existence that we're currently living in, and to birth our children. So surely the dignity of the apocalypse is sacrificed. There we go. There we go. That's an interesting phrase. I'd like to take a deeper look into that with my thoughts, because I'm intrigued by it, and I'm sure you are too when you hear it. Surely the dignity, and of course that pen ain't right, surely the dignity of the apocalypse is sacrificed when we search for its meaning like children playing with conundrums rather than like men being guided by its principles. So the dignity, there you go, of the apocalypse. You know what that's almost sounding like? When we stumble upon this greater truth that requires greater wisdom, greater reasoning, we put the dignity of the apocalypse is sacrificed. The dignity of the apocalypse is sacrificed. You know what that means? We win. That's what it means. Yeah, that's what I think it means. Dignity of the apocalypse. I'm just writing this down because I would like to take a further look at that. Sorry. And if I don't write where it's found, I'll never locate it again because I can't remember nothing. Even with all my notes, half the time I don't take the notes down that I want. So that's in the commentary section. So if I put that, surely I'll be able to find that. But I found that a fascinating comment right there. Surely the dignity of the apocalypse is sacrificed when we search for its meaning like children playing with conundrums rather than like men being guided by its principles, by the principles of the apocalypse. Is that what they're saying? There is a wisdom which brings its sevenfold beam of heavenly light to the children of men. Now let's look at that phrase, children of men, because we already discussed the sevenfold beam of heavenly light. It means to be illuminated with a truth, such a truth that a lot can't even begin to comprehend it. They don't even want to pick their heads up and go, maybe, just maybe from looking around, something's wrong here. Yeah. So maybe. And that's how we put the dignity of the apocalypse is sacrificed. That's how. So there is a wisdom which brings in sevenfold beam of heavenly light to the children of men. Why is it children of men, you suppose? Why is it son of man? I know why. Because of Baal. That's why. Why isn't it son of woman? He was born of a woman. Well, we know why. Because they told the potter she had no power over her own creation. So we get the children of men. They're not children of women who actually birth them, form them in their womb. They're called the children of men, telling you that there is a separation here. Sevenfold beam of heavenly light to the children of men. Men who have, dug another ditch, another well. They drained the upper pool into the lower pool is what we see in Isaiah 22 when we get our full comprehension. And fell into this snare of lies, and now they can't get out of it. So God says, and when the sevenfold beam of heavenly light to the children of men. To the children of men. We're taught by man. We're taught by his religious life. That's why the daughter Zion has not wrought a deliverance in the earth. We have, as it were, brought forth wind. That's Hebrew. The Hebrew word is, I forget the number now. But it did not give us our full understanding of what she was bringing forth. We actually had to go to Strong's Greek 4:17 to understand she was birthing empty doctrine, her children into empty doctrines. And that came by way of handing the vineyard over to him to teach. And the Shulamite says, look not upon me because the false light has shone upon me and made me black. Right? That meant to be without the doctrine of truth. My mother's sons were angry with me, the sons of men. The children of men were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, the children of men. But my own vineyard, my own creation, have I not kept. Now that's what that understanding leads us to. So there is a wisdom which brings its sevenfold beam of heavenly light to the children of men. A wisdom, pure, peaceable, gentle, full of mercy, without partiality. That's a hard one. It is. Because I'll tell you, when I came to this truth, it made me very angry at men and what they had been doing to women and getting away with it. But the kicker is they don't even know it anymore. They can't deliver themselves. It really is on the daughters of wisdom to deliver this creation and their own children into life. That it's on us to do that. And it's on us to really work hard at not being partial, right? To be fair in our treatment. And I think women tend to have that in our nature simply because we've had to wear the yoke on our neck. They haven't. We have. And so it makes us really recognize that we really do need this level ground that we all need to work from and on. And it's the fairness of God. It's the way God works and always did work. It's the children of men who wanted to yoke women. Half of this world's population, 50% of the world's population are women, and tell us that he made everything. Sorry, that's the children of men with their lie. And it's going to take a sevenfold beam of heavenly light to make them understand what has happened to their world. And they don't even see it. And it tells us all of this in this commentary, if I don't get through it. So there is a wisdom which brings a sevenfold beam of heavenly light to the children of men. A wisdom pure, and she is. I know her. Peaceable, gentle, full of mercy, without partiality, without hypocrisy. And when this wisdom rests on men and women in the fullness of its sevenfold perfection, they may read the number of the beast and see that with all its vaunted strength, it is but weak. And it is. It's so weak what it's resting on. It's resting on a lie, an absolute lie. And we know that because it actually takes us back to the garment of lies, out of webs. I wish I'd have brought my Bible in with me. And that verse was found in Isaiah 59, right? They build a body on a web of lies. And that web of lies was perpetuating violence in the land. And it says this body built of cobwebs and cannot hold together. And that's the web of lies that basically that we're talking about when we talk about this sevenfold perfection. They may read the number of the beast and see that with all its vaunted strength, for all the lies of the he, Godhead and the masculine in the world being built up like that is the only thing that matters in this world. What does it say? And see that with all its vaunted strength, it is but weak. I can't help but notice the only way they can make a man look strong in a movie is to make the woman look so bloody weak and half naked, and so she's so, usually they're so gaunt. They look like they're half starved. They're half naked, and he's there fully clothed, all muscled up. Oh, yeah, it's easy to look strong when you've got her torn right down to nothing. And that's what it's saying. It's saying these men of this world really aren't that strong. They're a bunch of weaklings because all they've done to make themselves appear strong is to tear you down. And that's just what they have done. And women have allowed it. They're part of the problem. They need to start standing up instead of going along with everything, which is one of the problems of this world, one of many. So, the vaunted strength, it is but weak. With all its vaunted perfection, it is imperfect. That though it vaunts itself as rich, increased in goods, and needing nothing, it still lacks that one needful thing, faith in God. So what was the first commandment that you are not to be violating, found to be? And that is what this world is guilty of. It built up an idol. To have no other God before you. And you denied the true living God. You denied your maker. You denied your potter. You denied your creator. And you denied your rock, your foundation stone. That would have made this world strong. So much stronger than what we have. I mean, can you imagine what this world would look like built on perfection? Can you imagine? I can, to some degree anyway. Just a little bit of it's been illuminated to me. And that's all you need to just want more of that, that understanding, more of that wisdom. You really want to know more and understand more of what we don't have here on this world, built on a lie, built on a false foundation. So with all its vaunted strength, it is but weak. With all its vaunted perfection, it is imperfect. That though it vaunts itself as rich, increased in goods, and needing nothing, it still lacks that one needful thing, faith in God, or the love by which faith works. You think a man dying on the cross, washing his wicked blood in his blood, is knowing God, is faith in God. That's not knowing God. That's faith in an idol built up by man. And it tells us, and I'll go back and I'll keep repeating it, we did a study on wisdom in the Apocrypha where it says you took hate and you built a world. Do I have the book here? No, I don't. And you called it love, and you built a world on hate is what you did, and you called it peace. And now you're so steeped in it, believing that this is what real love looks like, that you can't even pick your head up, right? It does take wisdom to be able to do that. It takes you down on your knees. I was there, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, whatever. And it caused me to cry out to God and say, look, what was the point of me? Why did you even bother? And that was when the Holy Spirit began to work with me. That was when Mother Wisdom chose to work with me. Because I think the Lord is looking for sincerity, sincere people. Women first. It's going to take the women waking up to that. And we know that that's the truth because of that verse that we find in Romans 11 now. I'm pretty sure it is. Where it says, if the first fruits are holy, then the body is also holy. So it takes these daughters waking up to teach us truth back to her children and take back her vineyard. And not be found bowing to a false god, to a religious lie, to an idol that empowers a man and makes her his harlot. And it says, let her eyes look upon Zion, let her be defiled. And that's just what they did to these daughters. They defiled them under a religious lie and law. So without this, it will never attain even the appearance of that perfect heavenly number symbolized by 7. It may multiply itself in earthly strength, the power of worldliness, into the power of worldly wisdom, which we understand, and this has been so long ago, I don't know that I speak on it very often, but it's spoken of as a sensual knowledge. And sensual, when you get looking at it, means really, quite frankly, sexual. A sexual knowledge is what it's founded on. And I had did a video on Babylon and really the system, the whole mechanics of the system and the merchandising and how it worked. And the definition had to do with sexuality. It really did, of Babylon. And now I can't remember. It's in one of my videos. I'll never remember where it is. But I believe I wrote it down somewhere in my notes, probably in this book too. Because it wasn't that long ago, but baby time passes pretty fast. But yeah, it speaks of a worldly wisdom. And it's a sensual, sexual knowledge. And if this marriage covenant isn't built on sex, as opposed to peace and love and fairness and equity and truth, all those words that everybody hates to talk about, and then talks about God like God is a God of peace, love, and all this stuff, and then treat half of the Godhead in the manner that they do, don't know God, right? And this again by the power of a 100-fold satanic subtlety. There we go. That's a good one. The power of worldliness into the power of worldly wisdom. And this again by the power of a 100-fold satanic subtlety. Well, now that takes us back to the dragon. And to be a dragon, we know it meant to be keen-eyed, to have a great understanding, to be able to see your enemy far away is your understanding. And so a dragon means to be keen-eyed. And we understand that that dragon was actually influencing the government from behind the scenes, which would be like a 100-fold satanic subtlety. But it will remain still short of the tokens of the kingdom of God, and the number when read will be, however godlike it looks, but the number of a man after all. What's the number of a man? Well, I'd say that's Jesus. Which takes us back to the beast system that Solomon built. Yeah, we know what that is. You'll have to go watch some of the videos. If I can find them, I'll post them under this one. But I'm quite busy lately. It's hard to get the time to look through. I have a lot of information that I'm trying to think of all the time and research and other parts of my life at the same time. But we know that Solomon helped build this system like so many of the other kings did, like Nebuchadnezzar. So we do get the number of a man. Jesus, he's the idol standing in the land, at least as far as Christianity go. Then there's Allah, then there's Yahweh, and what's it for Shiva? For India, Buddhist, I don't know if that's all the same context. We'll get into that more with the metapsychosis and transmigration of the soul when we look at some of the information in the Wikipedia that we were looking at. But the number of man, after all, is what in the end you're looking at in this system. So it really comes back to what you believe. So again, right quick, we discovered that 666 simply meant a covenant in the Bible. And we can actually verify that because the animals that were to be taken in the covenant that Abraham was instructed had to be 36 months old. And that's 3 sixes, isn't it? And so you get your 6 times 6 times 6. And when you multiply that, you get 216, I believe. Is that right? 6 times 6 is 36 times 6. Again, 36. 3 times 6 is 18, 19, 20, 21. So we get 216, right? So when you look that up in Strong's Hebrew, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get feminine and you're going to get light. So that tells me, because this number 666 links only one time back in the Old Testament, and it'll take you straight to King Solomon. So we know that it was King Solomon that really got the system, the beast system, up and running. And he actually exchanged the key of David, which were the righteous daughters of Zion, for the key of Solomon, which were the harlot spirits surrounding them, that knew man's wicked laws on her tongue. We know all of this. We see that being the contamination of the woman's seed in the Exodus. So what we actually gather from that is that they changed the covenant from one of light to one of absolute darkness, which then is why the Shulamite says, "Look not upon me," right? The false light has shone upon me. It became hot. It became angry. It became intense. She said, "My skin peels upon me." In Job 31? If it's not 31, it's 30. Where she says, "My skin now peels upon me." Because she was, in allegory, experiencing the hatred that these wicked sons had for her and her system. That's the Antichrist. They were going against her law system. She was the sovereign, and she was appointed to bring the law to man, to bring them into the house of God, the heavenly home. And they rejected that covenant and flipped it on its head. She says, "You turned everything upside down, and you told the potter she had no power over her own creation." She says, "My own vineyard I have not kept," which is why the daughters are found bringing forth nothing but empty doctrines when, and we have not wrought a deliverance in the earth. The inhabitants of the world have not fallen, right? That's why those verses are there. So, I am disposed, therefore, to interpret this 666 as a symbolic number, expressing all that it is possible for human wisdom and human power, when directed by an evil spirit. You get this? You get what it just said? Expressing all that it is possible for human wisdom and human power, when directed by an evil spirit. That was Satan, the accuser, who accused God. Now you understand, we're going to get verses that actually validates that she was the God representation in this earth. We'll look at that again in the transmigration of the soul video, because I do have these verses written down that we're going to take a closer look at. Where was I? Expressing all that is possible for human wisdom and human power, when directed by an evil spirit to achieve and indicate a state of marvelous earthly perfection. Watch this. When the beast power has reached its highest development, when culture, civilization, art, song, science, and reason have combined to produce an age so nearly resembling perfection, an age of gold, if not a golden age, that men will begin to say that faith in God is an impertinence. Now, I want it to do this. And the hope of a future life, a libel upon the happiness of the present. So, what does impertinence mean? Let's define. Whoops, got my hands in the wrong place. Define impertinence. You know what that means? Lack of respect, rudeness. Oh my! Well, gee, how does that align with what's going on in the world and how men treat women under the law? We're specifically looking at the law. You can go to the Middle East, you can go to Iran, to Iraq, to Pakistan, to India. You can even actually go to the United States of America. You can go to Canada. You can go to Britain. And their lack of respect for women is so obvious under their laws. They attack us every chance they get. And that's what this is telling you. And I have validations that she represented God on this earth. The woman represented God on this earth. And man turned on her in the covenant and flipped everything upside down, told her she was a harlot, basically taught her to be his harlot. That's why we get a little girl like Esther being raised up by a man like Mordecai, whose name means worshiper of Marduk, and Marduk is simply another name for that golden calf. Idol straight out of the land of idolatry, Egypt, where they actually had to part the waters. Yeah, we went into all that information. And it becomes known as Baal later on throughout the centuries. And Baal is another name for your husband as Lord and God, who demanded worship of himself as God. So we see this little girl being took under the wing of Mordecai, and she's being taught how to bow to a what? A king. And then, furthermore, the king decrees a law with his 7 wicked male advisors who said, how dare that woman Vashti make a fool out of a drunken king who was making a fool out of himself, saying, bow to me, woman, come out and show everyone how beautiful you are. And he was drunk, and she knew it, and she demanded respect. But no, she wasn't allowed her respect. You know what they decided to do? They decided to decree a law that every wife would bow to her Baal. Now that's what it says in those exact verses. Yes, she would submit, even from the highest to the lowest. And then I would hear brethren in the where I used to go say, he that is least in the kingdom, will be the greatest when it's all said and done. And it was like a toot toot to those men. Well, you forgot there's a whole nother level under you. They're called women, who are the least of the least in the kingdom. You forgot that one, didn't you, boys? Oh, right over your head. You know why? Because you don't even view them as people. That's your problem. And that's what this is telling you. So it says, let's read it again. I am disposed therefore to interpret this 666 as a symbolic number expressing all that is possible for human wisdom and human power. I don't think it means man. When directed by an evil spirit to achieve, that was Satan, and indicating a state of marvelous earthly perfection, when the beast power has reached its highest development, when culture, civilization, art, song, science, and reason have combined to produce an age so nearly resembling perfection, an age of gold, if not a golden age, that men will begin to say that faith in God is an impertinence. You don't need it. And what was the big guy's name there? It lives in that great big mansion. Oh, what was his? I can't remember his name. He's so big. But he was, years ago, he was trying to find the part of the brain that believed in God. And he wanted to physically get rid of that part of the brain that believes in this entity called God. You know why? Because these boys want to stay on top as the head honchos, right? They want to stay there making her his harlot and making money. But there comes a time when that comes to an end. They just don't know it. They just haven't figured it out, that their time is coming to an end. God set a boundary. And God said, I'll stay your proud waves. You won't get into my heaven with your religious lies and loss. And the proud waves is the people believing a religious lie is man is God. And dismissing half of the world's population as less. That's not God. That's not the God I believe in. Oh, it's the God he wants to believe in. And those men on the pulpit going, you women, how dare you? How dare you? Because they're ensnared in their own religious lies. And the light that comes from wisdom is simply too bright for them to look into. They can't look at it. Now, that's what it says. So, in the hope of the future life, a libel upon the happiness of the present. Then will the world power have reached the zenith of his influence. Then will only a wisdom descendant from above be able to detect the infinite difference between a world with faith and a world without faith. This is a world without faith. And only a wisdom, the wisdom that we have found, us daughters, you, me, we have found it. We have found it through wisdom, the Spirit. Then will only a wisdom descendant from above be able to detect the infinite difference between a world with faith and a world without faith. A great gulf which the want of a little heaven-born love can fix between an age and an age. You know why we women are the only ones who can detect it? Because we're the ones that's suffering from it. The greatest. We wear the law on our neck. They're the ones that think they have the right to bind us. They're the ones that have fell into their own snare, that God is he, and that they have the right to yoke us under it. They believe they have the right to dismiss us. They do. And they have. But it's this little bit of wisdom. Then will only a wisdom descendant from above be able to detect the infinite difference between a world with faith and a world without it. This world is so without faith. All one needs to do is pick themselves up from the feet of an idol and begin to ask the right questions, and you will see it. And the great gulf which the want of a little heaven-born love can fix between an age and an age. It's going to take a whole age to change it. Well, I guess we need to define what an age is. I'd have to look into that. One's lifetime, or is an age a greater length of time? So at the same time, I feel bound to place here, as well as in the excursus, two other views. One, because it has recently been advanced with conspicuous ability. The other, because it is perhaps the most generally adopted, as it is certainly the most ancient view. Both of these interpretations are based upon the theory that the letters of the name, when added together according to their numerical value, will make up 666. The first of these alluded to find the word in Nero Caesar. So this simply goes back to, yes, it's been many men that have built over the centuries, over the millennia, this male idol as God. And we see that in Daniel 2, right? We've looked at this. Every successive kingdom, men of those kingdoms continue to build on this idea that he was God. Man is God. And so it's easy. You're going to find many with this number. You're going to, like Nero Caesar. The second and more ancient finds it in Latinos. This last was mentioned by Irenaeus. It will be seen that both of these solutions are at one in making the number point to the great Roman power. And this was the great embodiment of the terrible spirit of self-sufficiency, tyranny, and utter godless worldliness with which St. John was familiar. These interpretations are interpretations in example, and as such, probably true, but they are only types, as it seems to me, of that fuller and deeper view, which takes the number as symbolic of that power, which, whether directed by Nero or inspired by emperor or pope or a false teacher or military tyrant, who are all these men? Men who have continued to build on this crazy idea, has dazzled mankind by a fictitious glory, a fictitious civilization, and a fictitious religion. There we go. Or deceived them by holding out the promise of splendor and happiness without the knowledge and obedience of God, without law, without faith, and therefore without true joy. We know that, don't we, girls? And I'm sure many of the sons do too. I'm sure we have all experienced it. And yet, that wicked pride on Adam's neck keeps him down in that ditch, refusing to change. But that is why it is addressed to the sons of men, because it became his vineyard, not hers. She says, my own vineyard I have not kept. We have, as it were, birthed forth empty doctrine, wind. We have not wrought a deliverance in the earth by teaching our children the truth. So it's so fascinating. What is it? What went on there? Okay, sorry. How long is my video? Let's go. I want to see how long my video is getting to be. Okay. So we're gonna continue reading. Okay. Where is it? Pull it up. Okay. So I didn't shut it off. Good. Doing good. And we're going to continue reading because I think it's the next part. Now, that in itself was, I found, very, very true to what we have begun to understand. So now, is that where we're going? Yes. Okay, so this is the pulpit commentary, or pulpit. Verse 18. It starts at, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man." The last clause has no article, and it gives a whole bunch of words here that in another language, compare the expression, "Here is the patience," etc. in verse 10, where it relates what precedes. Here, it evidently refers to what follows. Excuse me. So the form of expression is frequent in St. John's writings. The plain meaning seems to be that men may display their wisdom and understanding in discovering the meaning of the number of the beast. But the interpretation with Oberlin gives may be correct. That as the first beast is met and vanquished by patience and faith, that God's going to achieve all that God said God would, so this second beast is to be met by wisdom. This agrees with our interpretation of this second beast as symbolizing self-deceit. We deceive ourselves. When we bow to this idol and we give power to it and believe that it's going to free us, bring us into a greater heaven, we deceive ourselves. And we have no wisdom whatsoever when we're doing that deceiving. It is wisdom that frees us from that self-deceit. So, this agrees with our interpretation of this second beast, understanding as symbolizing self-deceit. I got to go down here. Go down. So, St. John evidently intends that the meaning of the number should be known. Let her, we women, that have understanding count the number. That is, let her that have understanding discern in what sense the symbol is used. It is the number of man. That is, it describes symbolically something which is peculiarly a characteristic of mankind. Some writers have understood the words to mean the number refers to an individual man, but the absence of the article militates against this view. Others explain it is a number which is to be reckoned according to man's mode of reckoning, just as in Revelations 21:17, a measure of a man. If this be the meaning, it leaves open the question as to what St. John meant by the usual mode of man's reckoning. His own use of numerals throughout the Apocalypse is, as we have repeatedly seen, symbolic of general qualities and does not indicate either individual or exact numbers. It's the quality of man. What is man like in today's world? Well, we know, don't we, girls? We see them cutting us out and saying we're not equal. 50% of the world population, the other half of the Godhead, the potter, the creator, the maker that got denied, and the foundation stone. We find her as the foundation stone in Deuteronomy 32, verse 18. She says, you forgot the rock that writhed in pain to birth you and bring you forth. I'm sorry, but that is not a father. That is your mother that you denied as the foundation stone. And so that's going to reflect the quality of the man on this world. And the man on this world, like we just said, when you've got to tear a woman down so that she is nothing but a frail little image of her own self, half naked, for you to appear strong, then that is the strength of this man on this earth. That is the quality of the character of the man on this world God's talking about. He's weak. He's weak and he's pathetic. When he's got to tear you down so he can look all big and mighty, he's pretty darn weak, right? You don't want those kind of men around. God says, I'll stay your proud waves, Adam, Satan, same name. You're not coming into my heaven with that crazy notion that you're going to be worshipped as God. So let him that hath understanding discern in what sense a symbol is used. So it is the number of a man. Others explain it is a number which is to be reckoned according to man's mode of reckoning, a measure of a man. If this be the meaning, it leaves open the question as to what St. John meant by the usual mode of man's reckoning. His own use of numerals throughout the Apocalypse is, as we have repeatedly seen, symbolic of general qualities and does not indicate either individual or exact numbers. So I got to go down here so I don't get lost here. Okay, so it went up too far. We are justified, therefore, according to this view, in interpreting the number symbolically or vide supra. Now, I don't know if I'm saying that right either. Vide supra. And his number is 666. The revised version is better, 666. It preserves the similarity of form, which is found in the Greek word. It gives the Greek words as found in A, in we have. The shortened form is found in B and most cursives, C11, and some manuscripts known to Irenaeus and Taconius differ by reading, and it gives the word, 616. But this is probably incorrect. Commentators have universally attempted to discover the name denoted by this number by attaching to each letter of the name, generally the Greek letters, its numerical value, the total of which should equal the number 666. To this method, there are several objections. In the first place, St. John nowhere else makes such use of a number, though numbers form a prominent feature of the book. In the second place, the adoption of this method seems to have been a consequence upon the interpretation of the words number of a man, as meaning a number to be calculated according to man's method. But this may not be the meaning at all, vide supra, and if it is, man's method would surely signify the symbolic method which St. John adopts all through the rest of the book as being a language perfectly well understood by himself and his reader. I think it's a language of allegory we're looking at. And that's how wisdom's taught me, through allegory. That's how I began to see the great flaws in the Bible. It was through the language of allegory. And thirdly, this numerical method has proved entirely unsatisfactory in the hands of those who have hitherto adopted it. For a complete expose of the fallaciousness of such attempts, we may refer to the reader to Dr. Salmon's Introduction to the New Testament. A commonly received interpretation makes the name of the beast to be Nero, Caesar. Well, he was a man, wasn't he? He was a ruling king, emperor, wasn't he? Caesar. Yeah, he was a Caesar, which is another way of saying a pharaoh, a king, a great ruler, a man in a great position of power. Do we get it to Daniel 2, what's going on? Written in the Hebrew characters, and as the name may be written Neron or Nero, the difference of the final N equals 50 is thought to account for the discrepancy in the manuscript's authorities. Dr. Salmon shows that Nero could not have been intended because, 1, the prophecy in that ease would have been immediately falsified. This is where it becomes very telling, I think. So the solution would have been known to the early Christians. Okay, let's examine Christian, this word. It's based on the word Christos, right? Christos means anointed one. They bring a man, they stick him on the cross, they tell him he's your savior, though we don't find him really anywhere other than in the character of Joshua in the Old Testament in Zechariah. And what we found, Zechariah, what he did, Joshua's purpose was to actually uphold her law, right? He upholds her law. That was the purpose of Joshua. It was not to go, I'm God, I created everything, you listen to me, and Father, right? That's Baal speaking. That's what Baal is. So what I'm saying here, it's not early Christians. It's the ones who actually knew, had information and knew. Christos means the anointed ones. You're holy ones. And we're looking at the daughters as holy and anointed. They're the ones willing to hear this from what I'm seeing. If there's men out there that are remaining silent about it, about wanting to understand, and I know it's a hard pull for men because, you have guys around you, right, telling you, no, even though in your own heart you may be thinking, this is right, this sounds right. So there's a bit of a harder pull in that sense, right, for men. Whereas we women, we've been exposed to this type of life against women, a world of rape, a world of religious lies that particularly in the Middle East, in this day and age of tech, we get to see these women being brutally tortured through honor killings is what they call them. The man can go out, he can sleep around with 10 women and say it's her fault and take her out in the backyard and stone her to death and call it an honor killing. Well, that's religion and that's power of the man. And you hear these stories and you realize how easy it could be to be victimized as a woman. And you see it under the law. You see it every day of your life. You see it in movies. You see it wherever you look. You see it as a woman. And so I think it's easier for women. I do. It has to be easier for us. If it's not easier for us, then you boys ain't got a chance. You ain't got a chance. It's just, I probably said that wrong. It's easier for us to pick it up and understand it. And from there, we explain it to those men who are not the weaklings of this world. God ain't looking for weak men. God's looking for strong men that can handle the truth. That's what makes you strong, handling the truth, handling wisdom's truth, handling reason. Be able to use your own mind and go, I as a man can even say, hey, that makes sense. But when you've got these weak men who just want women down at their feet, kissing their backside, and being willing to be victimized all the time, and willing to be perceived as less, not even in the Godhead, though God made them male and female in God's image. I'm made in my mother's image. I'm not made in my father's image. The Godhead was they, male and female, father and mother. And just like mother was denied her rightful place, the fathers of this world became fathers of corruption. Are they a reflection of Father in the heavens? I like to think not. And if that's the case, then you denied the true image of the Father as well. And that would be the image of a strong father that expects strong daughters and strong sons who can receive those strong daughters, not a bunch of weaklings. So that is your measure of a man. Perhaps that goes back to what's it called? The stone, where you measure. Maybe it goes back to that in some way that I'm not comprehending. But we've built a weak world on a weak foundation, on a foundation, a harlot spirit that bad to man is God. Now, that's what we understand. So, let's keep reading here. A commonly received interpretation makes the name of the beast to be Nero Caesar, written in the Hebrew characters. So Dr. Salmon shows that Nero could not have been the intended. Okay. So on to number 2. The solution would have been known to the early anointed ones. But it was not known, according to Irenaeus. Dr. Salmon then adds, in page 300, pages might be filled with a list of persons whose names have been proposed as solutions of the problem. Among the persons supported to be indicated are the emperors Caligula, Trajan, Julian the Apostate, Genseric the Vandal, Pope Benedict IX, Paul V, Muhammad, Martin Luther, John Calvin, Beza, and Napoleon Bonaparte. There are 3 rules by the help of which I believe an ingenious man could find the required sum in any given name. First, if the proper name by itself will not yield it, you get how they come to these, add a title. Secondly, if the sum cannot be found in Greek, try Hebrew or even Latin. Thirdly, do not be too particular about the spelling. The above objections also hold good very generally with regard to the suggestion of, and they give a word here that I don't know what it is, by which may be indicated the Roman or Latin power, either pagan or papal. But if we attempt to interpret this number in the same way as we have dealt with all other numbers in the Apocalypse, by regarding them as symbolic of qualities, we shall be on surer ground. And I think so. That's how we found it. So in the first place, the number 6 is typical of what is earthly as opposed to what is heavenly, as 7 is the number of perfection and is descriptive of universality and is therefore the symbol pertaining to God. So 6, my throat's getting dry, is a type of what falls short of the heavenly ideal. Cf. the 6 days of creation, the 6 years of servitude and of work. Again, the threefold employment of the number 6, while emphasizing the fact of the number referring to what is essentially earthly, has a fullness, importance, and seeming completeness which makes it a type of that which appears to be perfect, but in reality falls short of perfection. It is, in short, symbolic of a deceit and a sham. It is therefore descriptive of the nature of the second beast, of that self-deceit which causes men to accept the world as a substitute for God, or at least as not antagonistic to him, no, to her, the other half of the Godhead that you all denied, which enables men to thus quiet their conscience consciousness, while in reality becoming followers of the worldly power and subjects of Satan. This is so true. That this is the meaning of the number 6 is recognized by some writers, though they do not here so apply it. In the speaker's commentary, introduction, 11a, we find 6 is a signature of non-perfection. And this number is also a symbol of human rule and power, of male rule and power, who exalts the harlot in his heart, that'll bow to him and allow him to play king and God in the world and yoke her under a religious lie and law system to play his harlot. The numerical symbol of the beast, 666, indicates that he aims at and aspires to attributes of Christ, of the Anointed One. That was the sovereign Lord in the beginning, she. This is funny. That he aims at and aspires to the attributes of, we'll say, the sovereign Lord, and puts forth a semblance of Christian truth, of her truth, Christos, the appointed one's truth, the anointed one's truth, but falls away from it in a triple decline and degeneracy. So he aspires, that he aims at and aspires to the attributes of this sovereign. So, what do we have going on earth right now? Do we have a jealousy towards women going on? And the law system is coming into play on this? And it's funny, the men wrote this and yet could not see it. They could not actually see what they themselves already knew in their heart of hearts, in their mind of minds. They have fell into their own snare and they could not see the truth in it. Just like the men today in world religion, they're waiting for Jesus to come, or Allah, or Yahweh, and we're going to look at that too in the next video, where every man's sword turns on itself. Well, that's their religious lies and laws turning on one another because they denied the sovereign's law. And that sovereign was the daughter of Zion, came straight from heaven. to incorporate this world, this earth into the heavens, and they rejected the covenant that they had agreed to. So God says, you'll come no further. I stay your proud waves. You're not coming. You broke the covenant that you promised you would uphold, and you denied my Godhead is what you did. So there we go. Much longer than I intended. I apologize for that. I'm glad I got through it. I'm glad I did it. I had serious doubts of doing it today. But I wanted to. I felt it important enough to examine. It's fun. It's amazing. We know all of this now, don't we? I mean, go in and read the commentary under this verse, Revelation. What was it? I don't know what it was. I can't see it. Revelation 13:18. Go read the commentary under it. It's lining right up with everything that we have understood on this channel. It's just so amazing. And it really does take the wise ones. It takes heavenly wisdom to understand that this world is not built on real faith. It's not. It's built on a lie. And you built up an idol. And that is what the world is found guilty of. And it has been called to account, to give account, and to change. You change. But there seems like, I don't know. Are they going to try for more perfection and say, we don't need God? I don't know. The dignity of the apocalypse will suffer when we find the truth. I like that. I really like that. Anyway, that's the video. So thanks for watching. I had one of my lovely commenters, I can't remember none of my channel names, sorry, Frontline, say, hey, we need a new cup. I haven't really been into that too much lately. I haven't had the time. I can show you some of my older stuff that I do. Actually, these are little bottles that I just stick a little butterfly on. I actually do these ones, the bigger ones with it. And I have like different color butterflies, purple and pink. And I love doing them. I'm addicted to these little bottles. I put oils in. You can put bath oils in, and I give them to my sister and to my friends and other family members that loves receiving them. And I made this. I think I showed you this one on another video. Yeah, my little pin jar that I love. This one I had actually made as a gift, and I felt it didn't turn out right. It was crooked. So I don't know if you can see the crookedness, but it's really bright and pretty. So I just use it to put some junk in. Is what I do. And I don't know that I showed you this little guy. He was one of the first ones I made. He's more like a little drum, but he's a jar. Of course, I don't even know what I have in it. I have no idea. What do I have in that? Oh, I have a little bit of change in that. What else you gonna use them for? And then, of course, I have, let me see what else. I have him up there. I have these little guys. I love doing the metal cap ones. I just show you a whole bunch of little stuff that I do. And I have it all. Not all of it's blinged up. I have some. I like also the very rustic looking stuff beside the bling that I do. He's a lot prettier than what he looks. He's not glittering very well, but he's very pretty. I have this pearl guy. He's cute. Whoops. Little pearl guy. And then I have this little guy over here. I'm going to show you quick. And he did have some aspirins in him. He's got 2 aspirins left. And you can see just these cute little bottles. I have them kicking everywhere, all over the house. And I give them to whoever I can think to give them to, who might want them. Because not everybody does, let's face it. They're not all blingers like us. So anyway, my mother's not into bling. Like, she's a very, practical minded person, which is very good. I need that in my life. I'm practical to a degree, and then I love all of this pretty stuff around me. It keeps me thinking higher, I think. I like to think in different ways. So anyway, enough of me blabbering. Thanks for all who watches. who subscribes, who comments, who likes. I appreciate all my comments. All those who watch this video, I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. I hope that you keep understanding things that's intended for you. I think we all have our unique purposes, our different purposes. I don't think it's by random that you're here. I think you've been chosen to be here. Whether you realize it or not, you're here for a reason, for a purpose, a personal purpose for yourself. You need to recognize that for you. There's power in that. There is. There's power in understanding and being illuminated with the greater truths that's going to lead us on into greater truths and greater heights. And I think that's what we all want. That's what we're all looking for on this channel. I know it's what began me in my search. So again, I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. I hope you all have a lovely day, and thank you so much for watching.